Gives it back to Rush. Deep shot. Get it! What a perfect ending to a historic day. Gilbert for the win. Doncic pulls up. Three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good. Doncic wins.
Welcome to the NCAA Breakdown Show. We are now going to be breaking down the East region. The East region is led by the number one seed Purdue Boilermakers. They come in 29-5, winners of the Big Ten regular season and the Big Ten Conference Championship. And they're going to get the winner of Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson. I do think the winner of that game is likely to be Texas Southern. Texas Southern comes in with a significantly worse record than Fairleigh Dickinson. Fairleigh Dickinson has not been to the tournament, though, in a very long time. Texas Southern, on the other hand, was there last year. They won a tournament game last year, so they have experience getting to that first four game. They've played in Dayton. A lot of their players who were there last year played in that playing game in which they beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Not going to spend too much time on Purdue versus the winner of this game. Purdue's going to win regardless of who they match up against. Purdue is undefeated against quad 3 and 4 teams this year. They're one of the best teams in the country. There's no doubt about that metrically. They're 5th in the net ranking, 7th in the KenPom. But I do want to warn you to be wary of Purdue going far in your brackets. I actually have the Boilermakers getting upset in my bracket in the second round. They got a very tough matchup. They're going to play a very hot Memphis Tigers team, more than likely in the second round, if Memphis can get past FAU. Obviously, 8-9 matchups can be difficult to predict. So if Florida Atlantic were to win that game, that would still not be an easy game for Purdue, but I'd feel more comfortable about Purdue at least getting to the Sweet 16. But the Boilermakers have just struggled down the stretch. Have not played their best basketball, and their shooting has just plummeted. When you look at Purdue and the style they want to play, they obviously have all-world or all-country, all-American center Zach Edey. Edey's going to be the National Player of the Year without a doubt. He has one of the highest usage rates in the country. He's their go-to guy. He takes nearly 33% of their shots. Plays about 80% of the minutes, and that's including games in which they blew teams out, so it's probably a little bit higher than that. But besides Edey, they really don't have much else. Fletcher Lloyd is arguably their best guard, and although he had a good start to the year, he really struggled down the stretch. He's shooting under 33% from three-point range, which is kind of what he does best. He's a freshman, and that's the problem. They have a lot of really young guards. They have 3 freshman guards who play significant minutes. And they just haven't played well as the grind of a college season wears on them. All these guys kind of playing in that Big Ten grind for the first time ever, and it's cost them. You look at their metrics, right? Like I said, they really don't shoot the ball well. 32.6% from three, 255th in the country. That is difficult. When you have a lack of really good guards and you don't shoot the ball well, it's tough to make a run in March. And that's why I've got Purdue exiting in the first round. I'm sorry, not the first round, in the second round of 32. They're going to likely get matched up with Memphis, who has Kendrick Davis, one of the best guards in the country, and going to be a tough matchup for them. Now, could Purdue get out of this region? Absolutely, they could. Absolutely. They have a lot of talent. Edey is that good down low. I used to not be a fan of him, but I've watched him a lot this year, and he's quite a fantastic inside player. Got some really good moves, great touch around the rim, good free throw shooter, has all the intangibles you want from a big man in college basketball. So they do have a chance, but I like Purdue to get upset here. I think they'll be the first 1 seed to exit the tournament, and we'll see how that goes. But I like Memphis in that second round matchup if that comes to fruition. Next game I'm going to be previewing is the 8-9 matchup between Memphis and Florida Atlantic. Memphis comes in 26-8, 13-5 in the American Conference. They finished second in the American Conference and then won their conference tournament where they finally got over the hump and beat Houston for the first time after losing to them both times in the regular season. They come in 23rd in the net ranking system, 19th in the KenPom, and they face off against a team with one of the best records in the country. 31-3 are the Florida Atlantic Owls, and they come in 18-2 in Conference USA, first in the conference, won the Conference USA tournament. Likely would have got in without winning the tournament, but got the automatic qualifier. They come in with a very high net ranking of 23, but a significantly lower KenPom rating of 26. And this is a very interesting matchup. Two really talented, very good teams. Memphis, one of the hotter teams in the country as of late, obviously won their conference tournament, as I mentioned earlier, beating one of the better teams in the country in Houston. In that game, Marcus Sasser did go down, but Memphis had a pretty commanding lead before that happened. Looking at the matchup, Florida Atlantic comes in with the 32nd ranked offense in the country, Memphis 35th ranked defense. Florida Atlantic does have a few advantages. If you look at the numbers, they shoot the ball well. They're the 30th best three-point shooting team in the country at 37.2%. You can see that right here on the screen. But also Memphis, 28th in the country defending the three. So one of the things that Florida Atlantic really does well is something that Memphis defends extremely well. If you see right here, 43.8% of Florida Atlantic's field goal attempts are threes. 37.3% of their entire point production come from three-pointers. So they're very heavily reliant on the three ball, and that's the one thing that Memphis does really well. 30.8% allowed from three, top 30 in the country. So that's going to be a battle there that's likely going to determine this game. Can Florida Atlantic shoot a high percentage from three, or is Memphis's defense going to limit them? Because if they do, they only get about 46% of their production from two. That's 302nd in the country. Okay, so if they're forced to rely on twos and they can't hit threes like they normally do, Memphis is going to have some success here. And I do think the Tigers will be able to limit Florida Atlantic. They're the more athletic team, and that's going to be a factor in defending Florida Atlantic. Obviously, FAU has played in Conference USA, where the competition isn't as stiff, and I think that might rear its head a little bit here as well. You look at the other side of the ball, Memphis offense, 26th in the country versus the FAU defense, ranked 36th. And Memphis really doesn't have any key advantages here. They do shoot the ball pretty well, close to 36% from three. That's top 100 in the country, and 53.1% from two. So they're a pretty effective or efficient team, rather. I think this game, though, comes down to one factor, and that's Kendrick Davis. Kendrick Davis is one of the best players in the country. He is the point guard for the Memphis Tigers. He's listed at 6 feet. He may be 5'11", if that. Not the tallest guy in the world, but one heck of a player, averaging 22 points per game, one of the leading scorers in the nation. He transferred from SMU, where he was the player of the year in the conference in the American, and then transferred to Memphis, where he was again the player of the year in the conference. Outstanding guard. Doesn't just do it by scoring. He averages 6 assists on the year per game. Leads the team in that aspect. Has a very high usage rate. They rely on him for a lot of things. Shoots 35% from three, 45% from two, which is really outstanding for a guy who's under 6 feet. 86% from the free throw line, and he's a guy who can take over a game. He is absolutely a stud, and I don't know that Florida Atlantic has anybody to really slow him down. I love Memphis in this spot. I really hope they get through because I think they match up really well with Purdue. I think they'll give Purdue fits, and that's a great prime spot for an upset in the second round. And actually, in my bracket, I do have Memphis going to the Sweet 16. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Tigers in this matchup. Next matchup I'm going to be breaking down is the number 5 seeded Duke Blue Devils taking on the number 12 seed Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. This is one heck of a matchup. It's one of the more fun matchups, I think, in the entire first round, or round of 64. Duke comes in as a 6.5-point favorite. If you like the Blue Devils, on the money line, you can get a minus 305. Oral Roberts at plus 240, and the total sits at 146. Duke comes in one of the hottest teams in the country, 26-8, 14-6 in the conference. They did finish 4th in the ACC, but they just ran through the ACC conference tournament, won the title, defeating Virginia in the conference championship game. Really were only tested once, and that was in the semis against Miami. They're 16th in the net system rankings, and Ken Pom has them at 21. Surprisingly, they are actually the only ACC team in the Ken Pom top 25, and they only reached that after winning their conference tournament. On the other side, we've got the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. They are one of the hottest, if not the hottest mid-major in the country. 30-4. They come in only losing one game in this entire calendar year. 18-0, undefeated conference season. Finished first in the Summit League, won the conference championship tournament title. They are 36th in the net ranking system, and Ken Pom has them at 56. They are quite high of a ranking for those systems for a mid-major, especially coming out of a league like the Summit League. But they are for good reason, and Oral Roberts is a very dangerous team. And I think this game could go one of two ways, and this may help you in terms of how you want to look at betting it. If Duke is as good as they showed in the ACC tournament, there's nobody who's going to beat them in this region. They will run through this region and get to the Final Four. They looked that good in the ACC conference tournament. I don't think they're as good as they showed in that tournament, and I think the ACC is very down this year. But that is true if they are that good. Oral Roberts, on the other hand, if you like them, I think the way to go with Oral Roberts is on the money line, because I think, like I said, if Duke is as good as they were, they're going to win. They're going to win multiple NCAA tournament games, and I don't think that they will have trouble here with Oral Roberts. If they are not as good as they showed, I think Oral Roberts pulls the upset outright. So I think this game, like I said, could go one of two ways. I'm going to tell you which way I think it's going to go. Let's look at the matchup real quick first. We've got actually Oral Roberts with the better overall offense. Oral Roberts on overall offensive adjusted efficiency ranks 23rd in Ken Pom, Duke 42nd. The difference in these two teams that is more massive, though, is Duke's defense is 24th in the country. Oral Roberts outside the top 100. That is a key metric there. And Oral Roberts is going to have to do a really good job defensively if they want to hang in this game. When you look at the Oral Roberts offense, one thing they do extremely well, they shoot the three ball at a very high clip, 37%, 35th in the country. Duke does a great job of defending the three, 30.4% allowed, 21st in the country. That's going to be a key battle there. Can Oral Roberts get three balls up? Can they knock threes down? I will say, in watching Duke play in a number of games, especially the championship against Virginia in the ACC tournament, Virginia got a lot of very clean looks and just wasn't able to knock them down. Virginia shot over 60% in the semifinal game, and it kind of evened out when they got to the championship. They shot under 30% from the field, under 25% from three in that game. So I think Oral Roberts is going to have opportunities to get threes off. The question is, are they going to be able to knock them down? And the numbers say they are. When you look at their 2-point percentage, Oral Roberts, 8th in the country in 2-point percentage. And that's key as well. If they don't have the three ball falling, they do have the ability to go to the rim. They're 10th in the country in free throw percentage. So they're a very efficient team, right? Overall, an effective field goal percentage, 7th in the country. And this is wild for a team that's a mid-major. They're top 10 in the country in 2 of the 4 factors. You can see it right here. They are number 1 in the country in turnover percentage, and I think that is key because Duke right here, and this is going to be something that determines this game, is one of the worst teams in the country forcing turnovers. That is absolutely massive to this game. If Oral Roberts takes care of the ball like they normally do and Duke doesn't turn teams over, I believe Oral Roberts is going to have a very good chance to win this game. On the other side of the ball, there's one key factor that will determine this game that is bigger, in my opinion, than any other factor, and that is the offensive glass for Duke. Can Oral Roberts keep Duke off the offensive glass? Duke is 8th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. They rebound about 36% of their missed shots on the offensive end. That's a massive number. Oral Roberts is not bad rebounding the ball defensively. They're 135th in offensive rebound percentage allowed, still in the top half, a little bit above average by about a percentage point, but not great. And they're going to have to be great on the defensive glass. I do think they have an outstanding coach. I think Oral Roberts will have a game plan to keep everybody crashing the offensive boards. They're gonna really emphasize all week how important that is, because if they keep Duke to one shot a multitude of times, if they can cut this down to say 25%, if they can get that offensive rebound down to 25%, they have a more than a real shot to win this game, because Duke does not shoot the ball well. 197th in the country in three-point percentage, 114th in the country in two-point percentage. They do not score at a high rate. They rely on their defense and their talent. And I think that's why Oral Roberts has a great chance to win this game. When you look at the players on each team, the key guy, there are two key guys for Oral Roberts, but the number one key dude is this man right here, Max Abmas. And Max Abmas was on the team on Oral Roberts 2 years ago, who was a 15 seed, upset the number 2 seed Ohio State Buckeyes on their way to the Sweet 16, and it was not a fluke. They have the makeup of a Sweet 16 team this year, just as they did 2 years ago when they came in as a 15 seed. When you look at Connor Vanover, he is a transfer from Arkansas. He is a 7'5" center, massive height inside, and that's going to be key because Kyle Filipowski, the 7-footer for Duke, has been playing fantastic as of late. The question is, does Vanover have the ability to move his feet defensively on the perimeter? The good thing I would say is Filipowski isn't a great three-point shooter. He's 29.7% from three, and if you look at what you want Duke to do, it's probably shoot the three ball. I think Vanover's size is going to bother Filipowski inside, and that's where he does most of his damage. Jeremy Roach, obviously another key factor for Duke, one of their better guards, and Dariq Whitehead has been playing very well as of late, shooting over 40% from three on the year. But again, I think it comes down to who has the best player on the floor and who has the most experienced player on the floor. And in my opinion, that's Max Abmas. Max Abmas is a absolute stud. He's going to be the best player on the floor for either team the entire game. And I think Duke's going to have a lot of trouble guarding him. And so I'm actually going to predict the upset here. And like I said, I'll preface this by saying, if I'm wrong about this one, I'm going to be really wrong, because I think if Duke wins, they win it going away. But, last bit of little information on this game to kind of help you out here, and why I like the Golden Eagles to pull the upset. Number one is that this year the ACC is just bad. And yes, Duke ran through the ACC tournament. And yes, they have been playing really good basketball. And yes, even I was very impressed with Duke. I'm not a Duke lover. I'm a Duke hater. And I was very impressed with them in the ACC tournament. But the ACC is just bad. They really should only have 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. Pittsburgh was a last 4 in and barely snuck into the tournament. NC State doesn't deserve to be in the tournament whatsoever. And the other 2 teams, Miami is just an average Division I team. They may win a couple games in the tournament, largely because Jim Larinaga is a good coach. But I don't see anything special about them, and Virginia is always primed for an early round upset. So the ACC, not great. Second reason, look at teams who did not finish in the top 1, 2, or 3 in their conference, who then went on and ran their conference tournaments and won their conference tournaments and became a hot, trendy pick in the NCAA tournament. What happened in the NCAA tournament? Take Iowa last year, for example. Iowa, 4 or 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament, ran through the conference tournament. Everybody started picking them as a 5 seed to go to the Final Four. Some analysts had them winning the national championship. What happened? They came out and got upset in the first round by a Richmond team that would not have gotten in the field if they didn't win their conference tournament. So I could absolutely see this being a very similar spot to that Iowa game last year. I think Duke's a little bit better than that Iowa team was, but really tough matchup. I was upset when I saw this one come out because I did think Duke had a chance to make a decent run. I thought they might get moved up to the 4 line, although their body of work kept them at a 5. But I loved Oral Roberts. I was hoping they got a little bit better of a matchup. I was hoping for someone like Indiana or Miami. That said, I like the Golden Eagles here. Give me the upset with Oral Roberts. Next game I'm going to break down is the number 4 seed Tennessee Volunteers taking on the 13th seeded Louisiana Ragin' Cajun. Tennessee comes in one of the top teams in the country early in the year, fell off towards the end, still ranked in the top 5 in both the KenPom and the net rankings. 5th in the KenPom, 4th in the net. 4th in their own conference, though. 11-7 in the conference, 23-10 overall. They face off against the Ragin' Cajuns. Ragin' Cajuns finished 2nd in the Sun Belt at 13-5 in the conference, 26-7 on the season. They won their conference tournament title in somewhat of an upset. They take on this SEC team in Tennessee that is missing their best player and overall leader in Zakai Ziegler, a factor we will talk about here shortly. Tennessee comes in a 10.5-point favorite. This line was all over the place. I saw books open this as high as 13.5. I saw other books open it as low as 9.5. There were some middle opportunities early. We've kind of settled in on a 10.5 number here. Tennessee on the money line, minus 550. The Ragin' Cajun plus 400, and a low total of 136. I think this is a pretty simple game to break down. And I think the Ragin' Cajun have become somewhat of a little bit of a trendy upset pick, at least with guys who watch a lot of college basketball, because there's this connotation about Tennessee that they can't score, and that's going to cause them to lose in the first round. Now, although I think Tennessee has been severely hobbled by the Zakai Ziegler injury, although I think Rick Barnes, an outstanding regular season coach, tends to struggle in the tournament, I don't think there's any possibility here that the Ragin' Cajun pull the upset, and I'm going to show you why. I just think Tennessee is the far superior team. When you look at it, Tennessee is the number 2 defense in the country, and as good as Ziegler was, their defense really is just as good without him. It might have fallen off a bit. They're the number 1 team in the country defending the 3-point line, number 9 in the country defending 2-point field goals, number 2 in overall effective field goal percentage defense. They're top 21 in turnover percentage force, so they force a ton of turnovers, right? Sorry about that. So really, really top 21 in 2 of the 4 factors defensively. They're not bad in terms of offensive rebound percentage defense, 107th. That's going to be a place that Louisiana is going to need to exploit, because they are 31st in the country in offensive rebound percentage if they want to have any chance. You look at the other side of the ball, Tennessee's offense. They aren't all that efficient. They are 49th in offensive efficiency, but keep in mind, again, 49th in offensive efficiency without Zakai Ziegler is still better than Louisiana by about 10 ranks. And you look at Tennessee's offense, what's one thing that they're elite at? And that's offensive rebounding. 5th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. And you look at Louisiana, they're 83rd in offensive rebound percentage. And that's in a conference that is significantly less talented than the SEC. Tennessee is going to have a field day on the glass against Louisiana. They may not shoot the ball that well. They won't need to, right? Tennessee still has some talent personnel-wise. They've got Vescovi, Santiago Vescovi. He is a 6'3", left-handed senior guard, and he is a very good three-point shooter, near 37%. He gives them enough offense to get this one done. Okay, their big men will get offensive rebounds. That's understood. Vescovi alone will give them enough to win. And then you have one X factor in Tyreek Key. Key is a player, and you can see right here, he's number 4. Key is a player who has the potential to score in the 20s any given night. He's inconsistent, and he at times lacks confidence. I've watched that from him multiple times this year. But Rick Barnes and his teammates have a lot of confidence in him, and he is primed to have a big game, especially against a subpar team. I like Tennessee in this matchup. I don't think that Louisiana has much of a shot. Not saying I would lay the 10.5 points. As a lot of analysts have said, Tennessee does struggle to score at times. But that said, I think their physicality, their toughness, their offensive rebounding, too much for the Ragin' Cajun. Give me the Volunteers advancing to the round of 32. Next game I'm going to be breaking down is the number 6 seed Kentucky Wildcats taking on the 11-seeded Providence Friars. Kentucky comes in 21-11, 12-6 in the SEC, finishing 3rd in the conference. They lost in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament to the Vanderbilt Commodores. The net ranking for Kentucky is 26. KenPom, they are sitting at 28. On the other side, we've got the Friars of Providence, 21-11 on the season, 13-7 in the Big East, where they finished 5th in the conference. net ranking of 56 and sitting at 44th in the KenPom. Looking at the Vegas line, UK is a 4-point favorite. That line opened at 2.5, as shot out to 4. We've seen professional money on the favorite here. Providence, you can get at +4. Kentucky, -180 on the money line, and Providence +155 if you like the Friars to win the game outright. The total on the game sits kind of in the middle of some of these. We've seen 145. We've seen some in the 130s and a lot in the 150s. This one kind of sits in the middle. Interesting matchup here. Two teams kind of trending in different directions. Kentucky has played their best basketball down the stretch of the season, and Providence has really struggled. Providence looked like a sure tournament team for most of the season. Kentucky seemed to be on the bubble early in the year. The script is flipped for both of these teams. Providence snuck in. Kentucky kind of shot up the seed line, as we kind of thought they might be closer to an 8 or 9 about a month ago if they were to get off the bubble. Looking at the matchup, I think this one's a pretty simple breakdown in terms of how to look at this game. So one thing that strikes me about this Kentucky team is they're actually much better offensively than Calipari's teams have been in the past couple years. They are 14th in overall offensive efficiency, and that's key because Providence defense is very subpar, 108th in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. Huge advantage for Kentucky offensively. I think they'll have a lot of success. They are second in the country in offensive rebound percentage. Oscar Tshiebwe is an absolute beast inside. They're All-American center. And you look at Providence, 93rd in offensive rebound percentage. Looking at the other side of the ball, Providence does have an advantage offensively versus Kentucky. They are the 16th rated offense, Kentucky the 71st rated defense. So a little bit of an advantage there for Providence. This is going to be a tight game. Providence does have talent, and there's a factor here that I'd like to talk about beyond the statistics, although I will say Providence themselves are also a very good offensive rebounding team, and Kentucky, not a bad team in terms of defensive offensive rebound percentage, but advantage for Providence there. So both teams are going to have a chance to play a role on the offensive boards. Looking at a couple of key factors, and I think this one comes down to a few things personnel-wise. First, Bryce Hopkins. If Providence is going to win, he must have a big game. And this is a revenge game for Bryce Hopkins. Hopkins played at Kentucky, and he transferred to Providence. He's the best player for the Friars. He shoots it at over 38% from the field, averaging 17 points per game. And he is a go-to guy for them. Jared Bynum as well, one of their really tough point guards, does a great job running the team, but not shot the ball all that well this year, just 31.9% from three. All of that will play a role, but the most important role and the most important thing in this game, in my opinion, comes down to one man, and his name is Oscar Tshiebwe. And here is the key stat and why I like Kentucky. Tshiebwe is an absolute monster on the board. He is number 2 in the country in individual offensive rebound percentage, 18.8% of shots that miss, he gets the offensive rebound on. That's an absurd number. Like I said, number 2 in the entire country. When you look at Providence and Providence's roster, you will see that in their starting lineup, the tallest guy they have is 6'8". Oscar Tshiebwe is 6'10", 295. Croswell is 6'8", 240. There is a massive size difference. So what will Providence have to do? They will no doubt have to play some bigs off the bench. Clifton Moore, a 6'11 senior. Rafael Castro, a 6'11 freshman. Some of those guys, one of those two guys is going to have to play significantly more minutes than they normally do. If they don't do that, if Ed Cooley does not adapt to that, this will be a blowout because Oscar Tshiebwe will absolutely dominate the Friars inside. I think that Providence has enough to keep it close. I think Providence, their best chance is to play some of their backup bigs inside to combat Tshiebwe and have a backup plan. If that doesn't work, you could try going small and exploiting Tshiebwe on the defensive end, but the way Kentucky defends, they kind of protect him, keeping him in rim protection. I like the Kentucky Wildcats in this spot. I don't know if I like the number at -4 now. I would have liked it at 2.5. I considered jumping on it, but wasn't sure which way the line was going to move. And I'm going to hold off on this one. Might be a game to look at to bet live if Kentucky gets down a few early. Might be able to get a better number than 4. But I like the Wildcats in this one for my bracket. Next game I'm going to break down is the 3-seed Kansas State Wildcats out of the Big 12 taking on the 14-seeded Montana State Bobcats out of the Big Sky. The Wildcats of Kansas State come in 23-9, 11-7 in the Big 12, finish 4th in the best conference in the country. They sit at 24th in both the Kim Palm and net rankings. Montana State, on the other hand, 25-9. They come in 15-3 in the Big Sky. They finish 2nd in the conference, but won their conference tournament to earn an automatic bid. They sit at 103 in the net ranking system and 110th in the Ken Palm. The line on the game, Kansas State Wildcats are favored by 8.5. If you like the Wildcats on the money line, minus 420 is the number that sits live currently in Montana State. Sits at plus 320, the total 139. This is a pretty simple breakdown here. Kansas State is the far superior team, and I don't see a lot of upset potential here. To break this game down, we'll go ahead and look at the Kansas State defense. They come in as the 19th rated defense in the country, and one place they are extremely elite at is defending the three-point line. They're 16th in the country in three-point field goal percentage defense. They allow teams to shoot just above 30% from three. And when you look at the Bobcats, 32% from the three-point line, 288th in the country. Not a good shooting team at all. Kansas State themselves shoot at 34% from three. That's right at the Division I national average. So advantage to K-State in effective field goal percentage, advantage to K-State in three-point field goal percentage. They are by far the better shooting team here. They are also the better defensive team. Montana State comes in at 73rd in defensive efficiency. So Kansas State's going to have an advantage on both sides of the ball. One key factor here that I will preface this. I like K-State to win this game. I'm picking them in my bracket, although I don't have K-State going super far. I don't think that they are deep enough, and I don't think they have shown that they are consistent enough away from their home floor. They really relied on their home court advantage to win games this year in conference. Don't get me wrong, they're an outstanding team, one of the better teams in the Big 12, which is by far the best conference in the country. But key factor here for this game that could possibly rear its head, Montana State, 5th in the country in free throw rate. What that means, Montana State draws a lot of fouls and they get to the free throw line quite a bit. Kansas State, 298th in the country in opponent free throw rate. So Kansas State is going to put teams on the line a ton, and Montana State gets to the line a ton. 5th in the country getting to the free throw line. Why is that so important? Other than the fact that free throws help you win games, when you look at the bench minutes for Kansas State, 325th in the country. Just 24.5% of their total minutes come from their bench. So they are extremely shallow. They do not have a deep bench whatsoever. Because they are very poor in terms of fouling, because Montana State is really good at getting to the free throw line, if Kansas State gets into foul trouble, this game could get very, very interesting. Because of that, I absolutely do not hate a possible play on Montana State plus the 8.5. I would prefer it at double digits because I think that's a good number. Kansas State, like I said, has not proven that they're really, really effective away from home. So it'll be interesting to see how this first round matchup goes. I will be taking Kansas State in my bracket. I'm picking Kansas State right here, but that is a key factor to look at if you are considering backing the Bobcats. The second to last matchup here in the East region, the number 7 Michigan State Spartans out of the Big Ten, who come in 19-12, 11-8 in the Big Ten, finished 4th in the conference, sitting at a net ranking of 33 and a Ken Palm ranking of 32. They take on the number 10 seed USC Trojans, 22-10, the third place team out of the Pac-12, finished 14-6 in the conference, 50th in the net ranking, and a slightly higher ranking in the Ken Palm of 36. These are two teams with a ton of pedigree, very good programs in all sports, and Michigan State comes in as a 2-point favorite. If you like the Spartans on the money line, they are currently minus 130, and the Trojans plus 110. The total is a low number of 137.5. This game is going to come down to a couple things. So looking at the matchup, USC has the slightly better offense, and when I say slightly, it is extremely marginal. Michigan State's 41st in offensive efficiency. USC is 43rd. Michigan State with a slightly better defense, 40th in the country defensively for Michigan State, 48th for USC. One key factor here, though. Michigan State, 4th in the country in three-point field goal percentage, 39.5%. Extremely good three-point shooting team. Really actually abnormal for an Izzo team. They don't normally shoot the three ball all that well. And when you look at what USC does defensively well, they don't defend the three-point line well. 137th in the country. They defend the two-point line extremely well. Unfortunately, Michigan State doesn't shoot the two well anyway. 278th in the country, and they've been able to have a pretty successful season in spite of it. So what USC wants to take away and what they do well is defending the two. Michigan State doesn't rely on shooting a high percentage from two to win games. I think that's going to play a key factor. Now, the question is, can Tom Izzo adapt, right? Izzo and his team do not rely heavily enough on the three-point shot. When you look at the metrics, 32% of their offense comes from the three-point line of their points, yet they're 4th in the country in three-point percentage. 52% comes from twos, and yet they're 278th in the country in twos. I believe Michigan State needs to take more threes in this game in order to win. Obviously, the more threes you take, unless you're just happen to get a lot of really good looks, the more likely you are to shoot a lower percentage. That said, you look at USC, they struggle defending the three-point line. I think Michigan State can have some success increasing their three-point attempts. I'm not saying they come out and change their style and run and gun. I'm just saying I think that they should try to look to get more three-point attempts and knock down the three. That will open up the inside and lead to some open shots at the rim. One key factor that I kept my eye on was A.J. Hoggard for Michigan State. If you watch the Big Ten tournament, you could see a heated conversation between he and Tom Izzo on the bench, in which it looked like Hoggard wanted nothing to do with Izzo. Izzo continued talking to him. Hoggard talked about it later in the week, said that he just was having a tough time accepting coaching at the time because he knew he was playing poorly. When he went back into the game after Izzo's talk, though, it lit a fire under him. He scored 7 straight points, and I think he's going to be looking to come out with his head on fire. They were unable to win that game, and I think he's going to have a very big game for the Spartans. I know that the players from Michigan State truly love their coach and Tom Izzo. In USC, on the other hand, they do have a very good coach as well in Andy Enfield, and he's had success as an underdog in March. Boogie Ellis is the best player for USC. Boogie Ellis is likely going to be an eventual NBA draft pick. I'm not sure if it's going to be this year, but he is a very talented guard, 6'3" point guard, combo guard. He shoots 39% from 3, 48.5% from 2, and he is a guy who can carry a team to a victory. So it wouldn't surprise me the least bit if USC were able to pull this one out, but I like Izzo's experience in March. I think Michigan State, as a lower seed, tends to do well in the first round. They don't necessarily always make a deep run, but they have made deep runs before as a lower seed. And where Izzo tends to struggle in the tournament is when they're a 2 seed. When they're highly rated, they tend to disappoint. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think they're going to get out of this first round. I'm not sure they'll be able to move past Marquette in a second, but I like the Spartans here in this matchup. Go ahead and give me Michigan State in this one. Final matchup of the East region between the 2-seeded Marquette Golden Eagles and the 15-seeded Vermont Catamounts. Marquette comes in the number 1 team in the Big East. They won the Big East Tournament Championship for the first time in school history. 28-6 in the regular season, 17-3 in the conference. They're sitting 12th in both the net and KenPom rankings. The Catamounts on the other side come in as the 15 seed, 23-10, had an outstanding season, finished first in the American East, 14-2 in their conference, and of course won their conference tournament. They are outside the top 100 in both the net and KenPom rankings, sitting at 109 in the net and 113 in the KenPom. I like this matchup a lot. I believe Marquette is going to win this And I also really dislike that Vermont got a 15 seed. I would have much preferred to see them as a 14th seed. I think they're my favorite 15 seed, and unfortunately, they just got matched up against one of the hottest teams in the country and one of the better teams in the country, really, in the Marquette Golden Eagles. If Vermont was a 14 seed, I really would look to attack them, especially on the spread. We've seen some professional money on the Golden Eagles already. This opened lower. It's already out to 11.5, I believe. I have 11 on the screen here. Marquette's a minus 600 favorite on the money line. If you like the Catamounts money line, you can get them at plus 430, and the total sits at 144.5. And really what this comes down to is Marquette is just going to be too much for the Catamounts. I like the Catamounts if they had gotten a good matchup as a 14 or a 13 seed. A 15 seed depends on the matchup, but they really got the short end of the stick. I was hoping to see a better matchup for them to be able to take them in a spot in the NCAA tournament. When you look at Marquette, they're the number 8 ranked offense in the country, and Vermont's defense is 153rd. It's just going to be too much to overcome. Marquette's extremely efficient. They're 56% effective field goal percentage. That's 8th in the country. They turn the ball over at an extremely low clip, 23rd. And you look at the Catamounts. The Catamounts force almost no turnovers. They only force 16.8% turnover percentage. That's 256 in the country, significantly below the Division I average. One place that Vermont will have some success on that end is, in my opinion, is Marquette is not going to get to the free throw line a whole lot. The Catamounts do a good job of not fouling, and Marquette really doesn't get to the free throw line all that much. That's largely because they take about 42% of their field goal attempts tend to be three-pointers. That's going to translate to not getting to the free throw line a whole lot. When you look at the other side of the ball, Vermont's offense is definitely not bad. They've got a team who can shoot the ball 36% from 3, 55.5% from 2. Marquette's effective field goal percentage in general is not very good. So I do think Vermont's going to have some success on offense. They will be able to score the ball. And Vermont really does a good job of taking care of the ball. As you can see on the screen here, 14.2% turnover percentage. That's 9th in the country. Unfortunately, Marquette just does an outstanding job of turning people over, right? Shaka Smart has always done a good job of that, creating chaos, forcing turnovers. And when you step up in class like this, a number like that, 14.2% is outstanding. That's going to go way up. I just don't see them being able to just handle pressure from Marquette extremely well when you step up that much in class. So I really like Marquette in this matchup. And the last thing I'll say is a guy that I'm just super, super high on. I've watched him play multiple times this year, and he's the reason I think Marquette has a chance to make a Final Four run, and that's Tyler Kolek. Tyler Kolek, outstanding point guard. He's not just their best player. He's their most important player. He's the steadying factor. His development under Shaka has been tremendous. He's shooting close to 40% from 3, 50% from 2, and 80% from the free throw line. In college, that's absolutely absurd. Super high usage rate, one of their key contributors. And they've got guys around him who can shoot the ball and who can score the ball. The key for Marquette is going to be, can they defend? When they play better teams, are they going to be able to get stops? Because if you look at their matchups in the last couple games, with the exception of the Big East Championship, they've played a lot of close games. And that is largely because they have struggled to get stops. They don't play great defense. So if Marquette can dig in and find ways to turn people over and find ways to get stops defensively in a variety of ways, they have a chance to make a real deep tournament run. I like Marquette to have a good chance to go to the Final Four because I like their region. I don't think Purdue is great. In my opinion, Purdue is the weakest number 1 seed. I think Kansas State is a pretty weak 3 seed. I think Duke has a good chance of getting upset in the first round by Oral Roberts. So really, there's not a juggernaut in this region that I would say Marquette is going to be an underdog against. I think it would be a good matchup between them and Purdue. I think they'd be favored in any other matchup, and I don't believe Purdue will be there by the time we get to the Elite Eight. So give me Marquette not only in this one, but I like them to have a real chance to make a run to a Final Four. That's going to conclude the breakdown of the East region. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will move on next with the Midwest region.